Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Coach Mike with Elite Performance. I wanted to talk to you today about something that I hear way too often from clients, and it goes a little bit something like this. Well, I have a family history of this, or I have this genetic thing over here, or my genes were messed up with something, and that's why I have this condition. Something that basically says heredity. Okay? Let me tell you something. That's wrong. It's just flat out wrong. Anytime a medical doctor has ever said that something is part of family history or something is part of your DNA or it's your genes, basically what they're they're basing this premise off of is first the work of Charles Darwin that came up with the genes and expression thing, and that was hundreds of years ago. But more recently, the work of Francis Crick and Jim Watson. Now, this was in 1957. Francis Crick and Jim Watson were the scientists responsible for the discovery of the DNA double helix. And the ideology that in biology, information travels from the DNA to the RNA to the protein. Now, RNA is messenger DNA. It basically goes into the cell, into the nucleus, takes a picture of the gene that's on the DNA, and then takes that picture and takes it into the cell so that the cell can produce whatever the blueprint showed. All right, so messenger RNA is like a copy machine, and you're the protein. So in this ideology, it says that information travels one direction. Well, if information travels one direction, that means that you are a victim. That means your genes do control you. It means that you need somebody to help you out because there's just nothing you can do. You were born with a bad, happy gene, so I guess your life is just going to be miserable. And that ideology is called the central dogma. Okay? And it's still in the textbooks today. All right? Now, what everybody seems to forget is that the central dogma was never proven to be a fact. It's a hypothesis. It was never tested. It was never proven. They came up with this theory in 1957, and by 1967 it was being taught in our textbooks and it's still being taught today. Even though the new science, the new biology, epigenetics, says it is wrong. Not to mention, like I said, the central dogma was never tested. It was only a theory. Yet MDs tell you all the time how this is genetic or that's genetic and blah, 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 it's genetic. And it was never tested. It was never proven. It was only a theory. And even to go even further, if you look up the word dogma, it has something to do with an ideology based off religion and not science. So the name, its name tells you that it's not, science is not real. It doesn't exist. All right, it's an outdated science. It's an outdated way of looking at life in the world and biology. All right, it's the MDs and the people that teach that science are trapped in 1900. In 1901, that was pretty valid because that was all that we knew. But now we have epigenetics. All right, epigenetics. I'll start in 1967 with the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. All right, what Dr. Lipton did was he took one stem cell and he put it in a petri dish. Now, a stem cell is an embryonic cell. It's a cell that's a copy of the first cell that you got. It's the first cell copied all over your body. All right, and everybody has them. The simple fact that you're alive means that you have stem cells because every day you lose hundreds of billions of cells. Cells die on a daily basis. Cells are killed on a daily basis. Cells commit suicide on a daily basis. You lose literally hundreds of billions. And so if you didn't have stem cells to replace them, it would be just a couple days before you'd be dead, right? Because you can't exist without a cell because you are a whole bunch of cells. All right, so that science the epigenetics says that he put one stem cell in a petri dish, and every couple hours the cell is going to double. All right, so in about a week you got 50,000 cells in the petri dish. All right, now they're all genetically identical cells, but you're going to take the cells and you're going to divide them into 3 different petri dishes. And cells are like fish; they have to be in a fluid. So he has to create what's called a culture medium, a fluid to replicate a fluid from the body for the cells to live in and grow and get information from. So they create a culture medium like the blood, okay? And in one petri dish, these cells grow bone. And in another petri dish where he changed the culture medium just a little bit, the cells grew muscle. And in another petri dish where he changed the culture medium a little bit, there were fat cells, okay? This is epigenetics. This tells us that the ultimate fate of a cell, the expression of a cell, has to do with how the cell perceives signals coming from the outside. Okay? Signals go into the cell wall, the cell skin, the membrane. The cell wall has receptors on it. All right? A signal comes into the cell reads the signals and determines what's the best way to respond to that situation. All right? The gene is then exposed. All right? The genes are in the nucleus of a cell. All right? Inside the nucleus, you have a chromosome. A chromosome is a DNA strand with a protein on top of it. So imagine like if you're wearing a shirt with a sleeve. The sleeve will be the protein. The DNA is your arm. All right? On the DNA, you have 50,000 different genes. So it's 50,000 different expressions. All right? Once the signal comes into the cell perceives it. A certain gene is exposed. All right? The RNA comes in, takes a picture of the exposed gene, and then leaves out. The gene itself did nothing. It did nothing. What gene was exposed was determined by how the cell perceived the culture medium. All right, how did the cell perceive the environment? And you say, what does this mean? It means that you are a skin-filled petri dish. All right, you think you're one person, but you're not. You're 50 trillion cells. Cells are just miniature people. All right, everything that works at a cellular level starts at this level, right? The cell membrane, the cell skin is your skin. Okay, you have receptors on your skin that read the environment, hot, cold, pain, tickle, whatever. All right, you perceive the outside environment the same way the cell does. But then there's a mental part that happens out here because you have to. You're in the environment. Your skin picks up the signals. Your brain perceives the environment, which causes your nervous system to change the culture medium, which is your blood. It started with how you perceive something coming in. Once you change the culture medium of your blood, the trickle-down effect happens. Then the cell, the cell is now perceiving its environment the same way you're perceiving the outside environment. So then the cell sends the signal in and copies this bad gene that expresses itself in your real world. All right? The exact same way that it happens at a cellular level is how it happens in the real world. It's your perception of something. How you perceive it is how it will be, which means you are not a victim. You are in control of everything. Okay? Epigenetics tells us that we are in control of everything about our life. It's all about how we're perceiving what's going on. Our perception of what's going on based off of how we're feeling it, all right, how it's coming through our cell membrane, our skin, how we're perceiving it dictates the culture medium. And the culture medium is always the blood. And since you're 50 trillion cells, It's all about the culture medium that you're creating for those cells to live in, because that dictates which genes are expressed. All right? It means, like I said, you are in 100% control. I'm going to leave a link in the description to a video from Dr. Lipton where he goes into epigenetics in a much more deep, more science-based. I tried to keep it really extremely simple, but if you want to hear like I said, the more science-based explanation, I'm going to leave a link in the description to that video. Until next time, guys, take care. I'm Coach Mike.